Hello, hello. This is Taylor Ursula of That's So Pisces, and it's time to talk about our Capricorn new moon. We have discussed how this is squaring the nodes, which means that this is a really juicy, action-packed jump into the unknown. So let's do. So this new moon in Capricorn is taking place on Thursday, the 11th at 20 degrees. And this is happening just around 4 a.m. here on the West Coast. So, as I just mentioned, as we discussed in the Capricorn season video, as we've been talking about in the sort of end of the Sagittarius lunation cycle, which ended with last week's Libra third quarter moon, we've been talking about how this new moon is in alignment with a square to the North and South node. So let's talk about what that means. So the North Node is traveling through Aries right now. It has been since July of 2023, and Aries is ruled by Mars. Okay, so Mars is currently in Capricorn, which we'll get to. But the South Node then is in Libra, opposite the North Node, and Venus has been ruling the South Node, and we talked all about that in her retrograde and Leo and all of that drama. So with the nodes here on the Aries-Libra axis, we're learning all about where we are being called to become more comfortable taking the initiative in Aries, in whatever part of our chart Aries resides. We are meant to be finding more agency, tapping into more authority, being able to find courage, to be brave, to be bold, to initiate, to be a leader. And opposite that, in Libra, we are learning to let go of parts of ourselves that have been built around people pleasing, around saying yes when we mean no, around maybe showing up falsely in order to kind of fit in or be part of the group or to be part of a union with another. So maybe where we sort of cast our own needs aside as a means of creating a sense of harmony with another or balance in a situation that would otherwise be untenable if we were being ourselves. So when we have a square to the nodes, especially in the form of a lunation cycle, we are being challenged. Squares are about choices. We might think about this as being at a crossroads. Whenever I talk about those choices, I always use air quotes. I always put that into quotations because the choices we have available to us are always defined by whatever the rules of the society we are currently living within dictate. That said, coming back to this idea of the crossroads, when we encounter a square to the nodes, we are being faced with the opportunity to move in a direction that feels comfortable and that kind of brings us back to the South Node. So falling back on some of those old Libra qualities of everything we just described, people pleasing, saying yes when we know, trying to maintain a false sense of balance that wouldn't be tenable if we were being authentic. Or the other option, pulling us towards some new direction, somewhere we've never been before, which of course means that it's uncomfortable, which of course means that we don't know what to expect when we jump into that choice, but that ultimately pulls us closer toward the direction of the North Node in Aries, which wants us to find bravery, wants us to find courage, wants us to do new things. So wherever the North Node is always inviting us to do something different. In Aries, it's especially loaded with that kind of energy. It's especially loaded with breaking out of the mold, with starting down a new path, with veering away from the crowd in order to find the self, the individual. So we're kind of really doubling down on those themes of newness and I've never been here before. So thinking about what is squaring those nodes, we are looking at the sun and the moon in Capricorn, right? And Capricorn is an earth sign. It's about structure. It's about systems. It's about responsibility. It's about tangibility. It's about what we show up for in the world, what we think is important in terms of systems of care, not just for ourselves, but for the world that we are a part of. So when we weave this all together, we are looking at ourselves from a place of taking responsibility. New moon means we're thinking about what sort of new commitments we want to make, right? What sort of new investments we're interested in partaking in at this time. And with that in mind, thinking about the Capricorn element of things, which likes stability, right? Which likes to be sturdy, which likes to feel firm. Thinking about the past and Libra and balance. Thinking about the future and Aries and the unknown. We might already feel a little more inclined to lean toward that Libra South node because of all of the stability and all of the balance. We might feel that the structures we need to commit to at this time, or the structures that we trust committing to at this time in this new moon, will need some of the relationships in Libra that maybe already exist. And perhaps we will be less inclined to kind of jump into going it alone in that Aries part of our chart while thinking about that Capricorn, again, systems, being part of something bigger, being part of something grounded. Adding to that is the fact that Mars, ruling that North Node, is also now in Capricorn, which is said to be its place of exaltation. And that is because Mars is able to channel all of its drive, all of its rage, all of its emotion into tangible steps that build toward a bigger goal. While Mars is not yet entering into the square to the nodes exactly, that won't happen until Aquarius season. Mars is in a sign where it is able to see the North Node in Aries from a sign of square. And so there's a little bit of added pressure to want to meet those Aries North Node needs from a place of being able to channel all of that emotion and drive into some tangible effort. Saturn is ruling over this lunation and doing so from Pisces, which is a sign that is not its most comfortable. And so that may help us to loosen some of the urge to hold on to what is known already, to hold on to what is already established in Capricorn, and may allow us to dissolve some of those old expectations and find a sense of hope and trust, right, in that Pisces juiciness of, I have faith in this. To kind of trust that we could jump into something different, that we could find, if we don't feel the sense of tangible trust, we could find a sense of spiritual faith in our ability to make this push happen. So some things to think about as we approach this new moon, thinking about where this is all happening in your chart, thinking about what that Libra lesson has been so far. Where have you been pretending to be comfortable for the sake of maintaining the comfort of those around you? Where is that urging you to initiate showing up more as yourself? And what systems do you feel connected to, interested in, supportive of, that can allow you to build more trust in being yourself? Okay, so on Wednesday before this new moon is when the sun walks into that square to the nodes first. The sun is our sense of consciousness, who we're becoming day to day. It is our solar understanding of how we move through the world. And so right before this new moon happens, we are sort of confronted with this energy of what am I becoming every day on a day-to-day basis, right? The sun moves 1 degree a day. So what am I becoming as the sun moves? What do I see for myself that I want to be moving towards in a different way? What does that require me to sacrifice leaving behind in order to do so? And am I willing, am I able, am I resourced at this time to be able to change tracks? So Wednesday is also when the moon enters into Capricorn. where it will make a sextile to its ruler Saturn in Pisces at 4 degrees, as well as make a conjunction to Mars in Capricorn at 4 degrees. Now, both of these planets are malefics, and they may have very different impacts on the moon itself. The moon making a sextile to Saturn feels like holding it down, feels like giving support, feels like thinking again about that kind of investment. What am I thinking about for the long term in the Pisces part of my chart that I'm focusing on building now? What kind of community energy is surrounding that Saturn and Pisces in that part of my chart? What am I interested in connecting with and being grounded by in that Saturn? And then as soon as the moon walks into Mars, there's sort of a fire lit under its butt, right? Again, it's still in Capricorn, so it's still like responsible. Okay, we're not in Aries land, but there is this motivation. There's a kick for that moon to kind of get going, to really act on something that we are starting to build with that early degree Mars in Capricorn. On this day, the moon also makes a trine to Jupiter, which is ruling Saturn, which is ruling the moon. So we're kind of back to that longer chain of command that we've been kind of entertaining over the course of the past several weeks. So with this trine to Jupiter, there's also, again, another element of Earth. Jupiter's hanging out in Taurus right now. So there is another element of faith. Taurus is also a sign of belief and trust. So there might be a reinforcement from that Jupiter, which has recently stationed direct, to trust in what we're moving toward right now, to find a way to ground into the changes that are calling to us, and to find a way to kind of root into what can feel secure within us right now and maybe around us. Also on Wednesday, the moon will form a square to Chiron in Aries. Now, Chiron was a big player at the Cancer full moon. If you recall that video, we discussed that that full moon in Cancer at 4 degrees, 5 degrees, was making its way into that square to Chiron that also stationed direct on the day of the full moon. So there was a lot of Chiron activity happening at that lunation just 2 weeks prior to this now Capricorn new moon. So it's not surprising that Chiron would be a part of this lunation as well. And perhaps in that square to Chiron that takes place here just before the new moon, we are kind of reflecting back on what was happening 2 weeks ago when Chiron stationed direct, when the full moon squared Chiron. Perhaps we're getting a sense of what progress we've made with those revelations that have surfaced, or perhaps whatever we've been able to sit with. Maybe it's not quite progress, but perhaps we are making sense of something. Perhaps we found words for something. Perhaps we've been able to discuss things or identify things in a new way. And perhaps all of that square starts to inform what we begin to feel called to change at this Capricorn new moon. So on Thursday, the day of the new moon, we first have the moon make a trine to Uranus in Taurus, which is the final planet to still be retrograde. With this trine, we may find an extra boost of courage, seemingly from nowhere, right? Uranus helps us kind of integrate energies that are just beyond our conscious threshold. This trine into this Uranus energy may be kind of a push in the right direction, maybe a leap into faith, might be just that sort of light under our asses that we need to kind of feel courageous, to feel an impulse, right? So even without the thinking about what choices we're making, that impulsive energy may just catalyze us to jump in without thinking about the consequences. The moon then squares the nodes as well and finally meets the sun. So all of this happening very early in the morning, again, here on the West Coast, late at night for y'all elsewhere. And so here we have all of this baked into this new moon energy, right? So that final aspect being that trine to Uranus again may be that we're thinking about all of these things. We're thinking. We're worried about the outcome. We're worried about our capacity to pull it off. And that trine to Uranus just sort of says, well, F it, like I'm gonna jump in anyway. There's an urge for freedom in Uranus, freedom that wants to sort of pull us out of whatever we're currently in, freedom that can see big picture and can see beyond sort of some of the social constraints of what we're part of, and can compel us to jump anyway. After meeting the sun, the moon goes on to form a sextile to Neptune in Pisces at 25 degrees. Maybe this helps us dive deeper into feelings of faith. Maybe this helps us activate some creative energies to help us start to imagine the future that we are hopefully or potentially creating for ourselves right now in making whatever changes we are. Perhaps we can initiate some sort of zooming out sequence where we're able to see big picture some of the possibilities that can be created in making these changes. We end this lunation cycle with a conjunction to Pluto in Capricorn, right? And Pluto is on the precipice of moving into Aquarius. We'll see that change happen just about a week later when the sun makes a cazimi with Pluto at 29 degrees and they both move into Aquarius on the 20th. So we are getting some final narratives here for the time being. Pluto will come back. We'll talk about that continuously. Pluto will be back here at this final degree of Capricorn in the fall. But for now, we're getting some sort of closure around what this last pass of Pluto in Capricorn has been for us, what that's brought up for us, perhaps helping us come to a much deeper instinctual understanding of some of what we are putting into motion at this time in this new moon, helping us get a sense of where our power currently lies and maybe what attention we may need to give to that as we make some changes in our lives, recognizing what power we contain within us in making these changes, right? Maybe we're feeling something become activated internally, some sort of instinctual awakening might be happening as these planets meet. This is also the day that Venus in Sagittarius makes a trine to Chiron in Aries. So where the sun recently had the square on the weekend leading up to this new moon, where the moon has the square right before it becomes new, we are embracing some of those sticky parts, some of those lingering aches and wounds within us, some of those unanswered questions perhaps about childhood and who we were and who we could have been, right? Venus sweeping in, and from Sagittarius, another sign of freedom and expansion, bringing us maybe some philosophical awareness or meaning to what this experience has been, forging some sort of bigger picture possibility around who we can become still moving forward. And let's remember too that Venus is currently in mutual reception with Jupiter. That means they're both ruling each other. So Venus is ruling Jupiter, Jupiter is ruling Venus, and Jupiter is also ruling Saturn, who's ruling this moon. La 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 la. So whatever Venus is doing, right, whatever Venus is up to in this Chiron formation is ultimately in the ear of Jupiter, who is then in the ear of Saturn, who's then in the ear of the moon. So again, convoluted chain of command a little bit, but that meeting may bring a sense of benevolence to what has been achy for us. Again, remembering that the Chiron themes have been active since the Cancer full moon, when Chiron stationed direct. So just the last few weeks that we've really been sitting with whatever's been surfacing, Venus is bringing a balm to that, and that might have the effect of impacting Jupiter to increase some of the faith that we might hopefully be able to tap into in Pisces with Saturn, and that urging us or comforting us, consoling us into being able to make some changes now. I hope that made sense. Whew. Okay, let's go ahead and pull some cards. We are starting a new lunation cycle, so we have no recap. We are just going to jump right into the pull. We are going to get a sense of what is opening up at this time. Okay, let's do it. See you there. Okay, here we go. Just a quick reminder that you can always download a free PDF of the entire moon phase pull spread collection on my website. It's in the description of the video. It's priestessbaby.com/shop, and you can download that for free and pull along with the prompts. Okay, so at this new moon. We are asking about a cycle that begins for us now. We're asking about what has been cleared away to allow for this shift. We are looking at what this new cycle may look like as it unfolds. And lastly, how we can ground our ideas and intentions now. Okay. One more of these. All right. A little tarot card ASMR for you. Okay. Okay. A cycle that begins for us now. Okay. So we are embracing some grief, perhaps. We're embracing what we have recently lost. We talked all about those nodes a moment ago, and that's certainly been a journey of loss. We mentioned Venus and her retrograde through Leo in the summer of 2023, and there was certainly loss there. And so in our first new moon of the year, perhaps we are getting a sense of the weight of what we've had to clear out, right? We had our Libra for third quarter moon last week. That was the first lunation of the year. And we had to, or we were asked to, at least, to kind of get clear on what we were done with, what we were ready to let go of. Maybe we are embracing a new cycle of finally stepping through the Five of Cups. Maybe we've been in a place of mourning. We've been in a place of acknowledging and embracing the grief, and perhaps we're finally ready to make our way through this tunnel out to the light on the other side. If you want to think about the traditional Rider-Waite image, we can think about we are done looking at the 3 cups that have spilled, and we're able to recognize that there is still material left in the 2 cups behind us. So then, what has been cleared away to allow for this shift? Anything that's been keeping us from being ourselves. And that's something that we talked about with the Aries North Node. So we've cleared out, perhaps, the blockages around our inner child, right? This is definitely inner child energy. We have cleared out any disconnection from what our inner radiance looks like. We've cleared out any disconnect from kind of what our pure essence is within us. We've cleared out the fog of the moon, right? So we've gone through the subconscious. We've met ourselves. We've met our shadow elements, our demons. We've made peace with them. We've embraced them and brought them into the light. So what has been cleared away is kind of anything keeping us from knowing who our real self is and being ready to demonstrate that, to show that to people, to be that now fully. What this new cycle may look like as it unfolds. Okay. Deciding what it is that we believe in, right? Hierophant is affiliated with Taurus. In the transit portion, we talked about how Jupiter is in Taurus, and Jupiter is pulling us into some sort of conversation with our faith, with what we believe in, with what holds us, right? What do we put our heart into? What are the systems that we turn to when we are fearful, when we're uncertain? Maybe a lot like this moment we might be in right now. I don't know what to do. Where do I turn? So we are looking at getting a sense of what these systems look like, and that being a clue or a sign that this cycle is unfolding for us. So as this Capricorn new moon cycle unfolds for us, we might be tapping into and getting clear on what it is we believe in. Maybe we're pulling away from systems we previously believed in. Maybe we're shifting away from mentors or teachers or institutions that once held our faith that no longer get to do so. Maybe we are getting clear on what we no longer believe in, and that's part of the cycle unfolding. That could certainly make a lot of sense when we think about Capricorn and systems. What do I want to believe in? Taurus being the first earth sign, Capricorn being the last. Taurus is where we start to trust things that we can do and touch and witness on a regular basis, right? Kind of that day-to-day faith that turns into a broader spiritual energy. So, as this lunation unfolds, we're seeing ourselves let go of things we don't believe in, get clear on what we do believe in, starting to invest in those people, places, institutions, concepts, etc. How we can ground our ideas and intentions now. Okay, I love that. So, we are becoming emotional masters, emotional connoisseurs, emotional pros. We are getting a deep, deep understanding and connection to our own emotions so thoroughly that we are able to kind of hold space for other people to do so as well. We can be that emotional kind of clarity for those around us. We can be this firm crystal that has heart, like it's created a tangible shape around its feelings, and therefore it's able to use that, right, to kind of channel this light to pierce through the environmental fog around us. So a way to ground our ideas and intentions is to engage in emotional maturity, to engage in being emotionally present and being able to hold that space for ourselves and others, stepping into this role. Maybe some of us need to step out of a role. Maybe some of us have been doing this. Maybe that's some of this sun journey and some of this Five of Cups journey. Maybe we've been too responsible for the emotions of those around us. And maybe some of us are going to see ourselves grounding our intentions, turning toward that Aries North Node by pulling away from that Libra South Node of, I've always been this for y'all, and now I gotta go. So that might look different for some of us, and I hope you'll let me know in the comments kind of what's coming up for you here and which would upright or reversed, what's speaking to you here. What actions are you taking at this time? Okay, y'all, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed, please like, share, subscribe. I'll see you here next week to talk about our first quarter moon, and that's going to be some juicy stuff. So, first quarter moon in Aries will meet that north node. The moon will hit that north node and basically show us whether or not we have begun the journey toward these new energies. So, we will tap into that then, and I will see you then. Take care.